I believe it could take us as much as 2 years to get to that level of capability.
Clarifying, 2 years, you think you can hit 2% of GDP spending?
I think it's absolutely achievable.
Bill Blair is saying that Canada is speeding up the timeline to meet NATO's spending obligation within 2 years. That's 5 years earlier than what Prime Minister Justin Trudeau announced this past summer. This past week, though, President Trump put pressure on NATO members to massively increase their defense spending. I sat down with Canada's new Chief of the Defense Staff to discuss Trump and the state of this country's military. General Carignan, it's nice of you to make the time and nice to meet you.
Thanks for having me, Rosemary.
I know you were in Ukraine not too long ago, and I want to ask you about the trip and that conflict and how we are contributing to helping Ukraine. But I want to get a little bit of your assessment of where we are in the world, given that we have a new president in the United States right now. And his arrival means a new direction on a number of issues that you are also looking at. And I wonder what you can tell me about how you think President Trump changes some of these global issues that you are looking at.
So I think we can expect some changes. Like every time a new administration or a new government comes into place, there's always changes on the horizon. I think as a military person, we have very close relationships on the military to military side, like across the alliances, and especially with our U.S. partners. We have been working together in NORAD for over 60 years. We've been deployed together across the world within NATO or as coalitions, and in the Indo-Pacific as well. So what this implies for us is we'll just manage and react to the new demands and changes and develop military options that are like in line with what the new changes are required.
As you know, one of the things that the president seems continues to be fixated on is the defense spending of NATO partners. Canada is not yet at 2%, not on track to meet it for some time yet. What are you hearing from our allies on that issue? And do you think that the president is right that Canada should be moving faster in terms of defense spending?
Well, this is what we've been working at over the past few months. It's accelerating and making those investments work for us. Because the longer we wait, the less platforms or equipment we can get for the same amount of money. So we've crafted a way ahead to pull on the investments earlier. It's mostly to address the foundation. So it's all about readiness, professional conduct, and people to ensure that we create the right conditions to be able to build and transform and modernize the forces.
And I'll get to some of those issues, but do you think you have enough money to do those things right now?
So for now, yes. We have enough to kickstart the process. But again, it's a constant review of where we are at and what else do we need to do to make sure that we can take care of our defense.
So you were recently in Ukraine. Donald Trump has said he wants to end that war quickly, that he would like possibly a negotiated settlement. What can you tell me about the state of the conflict and whether you get the impression that there is a possibility for it to end? So
conflicts sooner or later do end. It is very difficult to predict exactly when. So the reason for my visit was to get an update on the situation from the Ukrainians. We are in the middle of crafting military options for our government and then crafting this according to various horizons that are not necessarily predetermined because nobody can actually forecast how this is going to evolve. But there's a few things that we absolutely know that the Ukrainians will need in the short, mid, and post-conflict. So again, it's about crafting our Canadian posture with the Ukrainians, and then again, integrating that as part of the overall NATO efforts as well.
Do you think that the conflict can continue the way it is? I mean, there seems to be an openness to reaching some sort of ceasefire or deal. Did you get that sense when you were there?
There might be an openness, but not at all cost. So this is where we need to be careful. Like the Ukrainians are very much focused on protecting the integrity of their territory, and we can understand why. They've been invaded, and illegal war, like without any justification whatsoever. So for them, the protection of their identity and their territory is extremely important, and then we can absolutely relate to that.
On a podcast back in November, Donald Trump's nominee for Defense Secretary, Pete Hegseth, made some comments about women in combat. He said, "I'm straight up just saying we should not have women in combat roles. It hasn't made us more effective, hasn't made us more lethal, has made fighting more complicated." What would you say to Pete Hegseth about women in combat?
I think, the United States can decide whichever means and ways that they want to take to build their military. From my perspective and from the Canadian perspective, we want to tap into the full potential of 100% of Canadians to contribute to their own defense. We know that the efficiency and the operational effectiveness of organizations are increased by more diversity as the complexity of situation increases in theaters of operation. So in our case, we have a very innovative force. We have people who can take the initiative, and we have people who can address complexities because there are many different perspectives and views around the table to do that.
There is also a move because of Donald Trump and this defense secretary to away from what he calls a woke culture inside the military. I wonder whether you think that there is a risk to that kind of talk and how it could affect the Canadian Armed Forces, because I would also point to Pierre Poilievre, who has also said that he wants to rebuild the military, have a warrior culture, not a woke culture. What goes through your mind when you hear those kinds of things?
Well, first of all, I don't know what that means. So again, I know what a strong military looks like. I know what strong teams look like, and I know what it means to have teams that I can actually fight and do the defense business for Canada. So to me, that's what I focus on.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about some of the challenges you're dealing with. The recruitment crisis is still an issue, though you said, I think at the end of August, that you had more than 92,000 people in uniform out of an authorized strength of 101,000 or so. Where is recruitment at today? How are you doing?
So we've set forward a lot of changes in the fall period. We have introduced many changes to the process, to the structure, to streamline the recruitment and remove barriers and bottlenecks to the process.
To make it easier for people to get in.
Exactly.
Right.
It is starting to absolutely pay off. We are seeing an increase in enrollment at the moment.
And what does that look like in terms of numbers? Can you give me an idea?
As of now, we are at 80% of our objective. Just to give you an idea, usually at this time of, for a full year, over the past few years, we recruited 60 to 65 of our overall objectives. So we are already over and above, with a little bit over 2 months to go before the end of the year. So we are on a positive track for that.
And let me ask you what it is like to be a woman in this job, and whether you think that has sent a message to the armed forces that have been dealing with, and you've been part of this, really a culture problem inside the military in terms of how women are treated. Do you think that your position and you being in that position sends a signal of some kind, and we've moved on, or we've turned a page?
I think it has allowed for a model, like, okay, this is now possible, and it offers hope.
General, I'll leave it there. Thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Rosemary.